Welcome to Succeed with Shanice, a podcast about keeping it real and helping you thrive in every aspect of your professional journey. I am Shanice, the CEO, sharing my unique perspective as a Black woman in HR and business ownership, and spotlighting conversations where BIPOC experiences in the workplace are shared, valued, and celebrated. Thanks for tuning in, my fellow Succeeder. This is Shanice, and I am happy that you are joining me today on this here podcast, Succeed with Shanice. Today's topic is a little bit heavy, sensitive, but important. I want to make sure that I spend some dedicated time in highlighting the importance and value of leaders positioning themselves in creating a bully-free workplace environment. It has been interestingly prevalent throughout the years that bullying taking place in work environments has gone up or has increased. And I mean, honestly, leaders should and must take some accountability for this, right? And I'm saying this as a fellow leader myself. It is up to us to make sure that we are creating spaces that are safe and harm-free for our employees and our constituents. So today I want to highlight the importance of doing that. And by being a leader that steps into being the stronger individual than their constituents to ensure to protect our staff and not bring harm to them. Before I get started, and if you've listened to me, I always like to start with ensuring that my global audience has a common definition or understanding of the topics that I discuss. So I want to make sure that I set a definition for what workplace bullying is and how it can show up and be harmful within our work cultures. So workplace bullying, as defined, is a repeated and ongoing behavior characterized by abusive conduct that fosters an intimidating atmosphere at work, psychological or physical harm that targets and potentially causes harm to an individual or any witnesses that have witnessed the harm, and can be characterized as a psychological power imbalance between the perpetrator, so the one doing the bullying, the target, the individual directly receiving the bullying behavior, and any witnesses, anyone that might have been within proximity of this behavior taking place. So it's really important for me to make sure that I set a definition and share some of the different ways workplace bullying can show up, because I think we have a common understanding of what bullying can be. But as we have all witnessed throughout the years, and with technology being introduced into this world and enhancing every minute of the day, but also we as humans just becoming more innovative in how we do things, we have seen, and it has been proven, that bullying can show up in very different ways, whether that's direct verbal interaction between the perpetrator or the targeted individual, whether that's through technology. So cyberbullying is a term you may have used. That can be in the workplace. We all are now on our computers. They are a primary form of communicating with each other, whether that's through email, through the Slacks and the Google chats, and just being able to keep those spaces safe is just as valuable as a physical office space. in ensuring that there aren't any bullying behaviors occurring. And there are other ways, whether seen or unseen. So if there could be physical bullying, I won't dive too much into that on this episode. But one that resonated with me throughout my research was the psychological or the emotional impact that it can have on individuals through differing bullying behaviors. So I want to share some of the common forms in that regard. And like I said, that's emotional, that's verbal. It can also look like being very exclusive. So exclusionary tactics. So where individuals may create scenarios or situations that may isolate an individual in a certain way. So creating a group activity that everyone cannot participate in due to differing abilities to do so, whether that be physical abilities or mental capacities. It could be social activities where it might impact someone's religious beliefs or values that causes them to have to be excluded from that. Those tactics, when done repeatedly and intentionally to cause harm, can show up as bullying. And also, and most importantly, the misuse of power. So where you might see a supervisor creating a dynamic that can easily cause their direct report to feel bullied and to experience bullying behaviors that impact them, whether physically or psychologically. It could be a senior member of an organization with a new hire. Seniority is a thing, and how we represent and acknowledge seniority is very important, because you don't want to create a culture where it allows for anyone to feel less than or outside of the overall organization. Then there's even those power dynamics where it might relate to age or generational gaps. So I give an example of, going back to technology. So being able to create initiatives that still allow for the innovation of systems and processes and streamlining those things, while also building a culture or a style that brings those generations that may not be used to this type of technology or may not be tech savvy in those areas, to help bring them along and to embed intentional work to train them and to get them to feel comfortable with this new thing. Or vice versa, where we have a lot of younger generations joining our workplaces. Are we creating space where they feel as if they can authentically be themselves without feeling isolated or without feeling that there is some type of power dynamic of being less than everyone else who is, and that's my dog, you might hear him from time to time, but everyone else maybe in earlier generations than them, right? So it can show up in so many different ways, which is why I really want to spend focused time in understanding and unpacking what workplace bullying can manifest as within all of our organizations. And that's across industries. Sometimes we see it coming and sometimes we don't. In any case, we should be prepared and proactive in being able to ensure that our culture within our workplaces is safe and bully free. I hope I've been able to give a good definition for us on what workplace bullying is, how it can show up in all the different behaviors or characteristics and forms, and how it shows up within our work environments. which brings me for the next half of this episode to just dive into some of the impacts it can cause either on individuals or our teams within our spaces. Some things that leaders are doing, things that leaders are doing to be proactive, to prevent and mitigate workplace bullying across, honestly, the country, the nation, the world. And then also share a little bit about how we as individuals within our workplaces, as employees, as leaders, as constituents, can be empowered to advocate for zero tolerance policies and practices more effectively, so that we feel safe and that our fellow colleagues feel safe from bullying behavior. So first, I'll start off in talking about some of the impacts. And I kind of touched a little bit about that in our definition. But one thing that workplace bullying, if it exists, and I know whoever's listening here, y'all have worked with me and we have talked, so I'm sure it's not existing in your organizations. But if it is, right, because we are all human, it can show up by an individual or team member having poor mental health. It causes a lot more emotional harm than anything else that kind of messes with our psyche, both in how we see ourselves in the work that we're doing, but also how others around us see us in the work that we're doing, right? So really being in tune with ourselves and how we are just feeling really helps to understand, one, that we're feeling that way, but also two, where those feelings are coming from. And could they possibly be coming from an environment that has some bullying tactics or characteristics, unfortunately, showing up in them? So mental health has been one of the greatest impacts on individuals and teams where workplace bullying is being presented. How that may look is individuals deciding to take extensive leaves. For example, and I'm going to use anonymity here, someone I worked with, we'll call them Sasha, after 3 months asked to take leave, an extended leave, in fact. And normally I don't ask too much invasive questions, but I was very curious because they hadn't worked for very long. And I was wondering, what was going on? Is there anything that my team can do to support? And only to find that Sasha was dealing with a lot of challenges in trying to build relationship with her supervisor. She felt that there was this constant, butting of heads anytime she would try to bring insight or acknowledgement to the work that she was doing. And her leader kept being very chastising and kept ridiculing the work that she was giving and putting out, or the ideas that she had, or if things weren't done a certain way that her supervisor wanted, Sasha would get basically chastised publicly in front of the rest of her team about it and within their one-on-ones. So there were times where Sasha was dreading going into meetings with her supervisor and dreading going to work, and in essence felt it was taking a huge toll on her overall mental health, and decided that she would like to take an extended leave to help just distance herself from that space, from that environment, and from those experiences, and take care of herself. So that's one impact and an example of how that can show up, where we may think a request for leave or for time off, maybe one thing, it could be a completely other thing when you start seeing some patterns or some uncertainty around that specific situation. And I, being positioned as an HR leader, have the opportunity to be able to probe a little bit and ask a little bit more questions within the legal realms, but to ask questions and get more of a broader perspective of what actually is going on there. Because again, for me, the flag was, Sasha, you've been here only for 3 months. Like, what could have happened in 3 months? You haven't even gone through your probationary period yet, or at least completed it. For your review, tell me, please, how can I help, right? And that's how that showed up. Another way it can impact individuals or teams is through productivity. You can find that your team may have been in one quarter killing it. Their numbers are high. They're getting all of their sales done. They're completing all of their projects on time. Like, everything is just going up. And then the next quarter, it completely and significantly drop in productivity. That, again, for me, is a flag. What is going on? Is it about the demand? Is it about is it the ebbs and flows and cycles of what's going on within the economy? Or could it be something more internal that is causing our team members to feel as if they cannot push through or cannot push forward and meet those same numbers? And when bullying is involved, it can really show up in folks feeling as if, well, if the last time I was killing it and it wasn't enough, then I'm going to take a seat back, right? Or I'm going to take a step back. Or they've been pushing me so hard. And yes, we met the numbers. Yes, we did all the things. But in the process of doing so, we kept getting belittled and undermined. And no one was listening to us when we said we were tired or exhausted or needed more resources. So I'm not going to be able, I don't have anything left for the second quarter. It can show up in different ways, but the glaring visual or the glaring sign for us is how productivity has significantly shifted. And we as leaders need to pay attention to that, to start, again, doing the probing, asking the questions, getting more in tune with what's going on the ground floor of our organizations. Which brings me to the last one, where workplace bullying can impact our individuals, constituents, and employees and our teams, is turnover. Some people get so fed up from being bullying that they just quit. Like, they're like, hey, nope, this is not for me. I love myself too much to be spoken to this way. I'm out. Peace. And that is something that needs to be another flag. I can't think of another term, but needs to be another flag for us to realize, like, hey, what's going on over here? This is the 4th individual that we have hired and then had to replace within a short period of time. If it's not the position, and if it's not the hiring process, if it's not the amount of individuals who specialize in that role, then it must be something around the dynamics and the culture of that unit, that department, that organization. And so being in tune with how turnover can be another sign that shows that, well, there might be something here. There might be something, especially around how people are being treated to where they choose to leave. And where you can get that information is through exit interviews in this stage. At that point, and people always say, oh, what's the value in exit interviews? But it can be really helpful. I'm really big personally. I value constructive feedback. And I would especially want constructive feedback as it relates to my organization, especially if someone is leaving my business abruptly, right? So being able to build in some type of trusted and supportive experience or program to get that feedback can also help in identifying early where bullying is taking place, and then strategize on how to respond and solve for that so it doesn't continue and perpetuate itself throughout the next hire's experience. So those are the 3 impacts I wanted to share. I would love to hear if you have any others you have either read about or maybe even experienced. This is a safe space, so feel free to keep the anonymity in the comments, but feel free to share with me outside of mental health, productivity, and turnover. What other impacts have you seen or heard of to help us get ahead of the ball anytime bullying creeps itself into our organizations? Next, I want to share a little bit about some of the measures leaders today are taking, whether they be policies on a more federal or state level, or even just internally in organizations that I've worked with and read about, and how they're trying to be more proactive in creating an environment that has zero tolerance for workplace bullying. They'll start at the top with, laws. So starting with Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. Also, there's the Americans with Disability Act, or ADA, and the Age Discrimination and Employment Act, ADEA. They all speak to behaviors that are accompanied with bullying, and how we as organizational leaders have the law to back us up when we want to ensure zero tolerance within our organizations or respond to any bullying that may take place. These laws also help us as individuals within the workplace to understand where our rights are and how we can be supported in advocating for ourselves should we experience these harmful events. So I do recommend, and I'll link them in the caption of this episode, that you peruse those individual laws. Again, that's the Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, the Americans with Disability Act, the Age Discrimination and Employment Act. And I will also include, for my broad global succeeders out there, some other regulations that help to really inform us on how we work with workplace bullying. Since I reside here in California, I do want to hone in to my California folks, because we have been required as employers to also provide anti-bullying training as a part of our harassment training programs. And everybody knows this, and I'm going to be transparent because I can be, because it's my podcast. Sometimes we need to be required to do something or mandated to do something to ensure it gets done. That's just honestly the human way. In California, as well as other states, have taken it upon themselves to make this a requirement for all employers. So us as leaders, whether it's required or not in your state or in your country, there are samples out there in how you can create anti-bullying training. And of course, your HR bestie is here to help you if you ever want to talk more about that. But really incorporating training material and programs constantly on a regular basis within your organization to not only promote zero tolerance within your organization for workplace bullying, but also prevent and educate around bullying, anti-bullying practices. So I encourage you to, if it's not already on your list this year, all my California leaders out there, it should already be, to incorporate this as an initiative this year for your organization to implement. It will create more value in how your employees engage and feel supported and feel safe within your organizations. And it will bring so much return in being able to ensure that you have an anti-bullying environment. But overall, it is just very imperative for organizations to be proactive in setting any policies, any programs, or any practices. The 3 Ps: policies, programs, and practices. And they all should intertwine with each other when it comes to anti-bullying within the workplace, because it really, it mitigates a lot of risk, but it also ensures that your employees feel supported, like I said before, but also want to stay. They're satisfied where they're working because it is a safe and happy place to be able to work. And you want that for your teams. You want that for your constituents. I'm sure you want that even for your extended external partners and constituents, to feel like your organization is somewhere that prioritizes the safety and security of those that are involved. So it is important to just be proactive this year. If you don't do anything else as it relates to anti-bullying, whether it's creating new policies, refining the ones you already have, creating programs or refining the programs you already have, and implementing best practices so that everyone is working towards a common goal of building a bullying-free workplace environment. So my time is just about up, but I do want to end with ensuring that you have all the tools and resources to be able to advocate for yourself. Should you ever need to talk about bullying within your team or workplace, or just being vigilant and proactive. So if you see anything, say something about it. If you hear anything, say something about it. Report it to your trusted leader or HR representative within your organization. They are trained for this. So go and inform them of what you see or what you hear or what you experience as it relates to workplace bullying, and do that as soon as possible so that they can take the necessary measures to resolve those issues. And also stay vigilant in all of your learning, in all of your self-awareness. Continue to expose yourself to different emotional intelligence and anti-bullying cultural practices, because you want to always stay up to date with how to recognize and how to respond to these situations. And then also how to ensure that they just don't show up. Because honestly, we are adults. We are grown as I used to say in my 20s when I thought I was grown. But we are adults working with other adults. So we should be able to treat this as if we are grown, right? And treat this with the sensitivity, but also with the intentionality that it deserves. So again, that is my time. I thank you so very much. I know this was a pretty heavy topic on this episode, and please share with me your insights and feedback in the comments. I would love to hear from you, or if you have feedback on future topics, because this is a space for us to continue to grow, to continue to be proactive, and to continue to learn together. So feel free to share with me in the comments any ideas that you may have for me as we move forward throughout this year and building bullying-free, loving, productive, happy, empowering, insert word here, workplace cultures. I'm Shanice with Succeed with Shanice and tuning out today, but I hope you tune in on my next episode here on this podcast. See ya.